We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll go to Rich Scarcella.
Appreciate everybody coming, like always. Cover Penn State football. We talk about the stats that we talk about every week. We won the turnover battle. We won the penalty battle. Did not win drive, start, sack, or explosive play battle. When you kind of go back and you look at the game and you watch the tape and you meet with the players, I think we played hard. We really did. But we did not play nearly as clean as we needed to play. We talked about that from the beginning of the season. Typically, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win. And uncharacteristically, I think there was times where we lost our poise and composure. I think our kids have a ton of investment, and our staff has a ton of investment. And we did not play or handle that as well as we should have, obviously. Moving on to Minnesota with PJ Fleck and University of Minnesota. I've known PJ for a long time. Actually, PJ, when I was at Vanderbilt, came and visited. When I first got to Penn State, came and visited. So I knew him before both of us were in the Big Ten. Obviously have followed his career closely. Obviously, Kirk Ciarrocca, there's obviously a ton of history there, not only coming from the state of Pennsylvania, but also been on our staff for a period of time. Kirk's done a great job. He's had a great career, and he's back, obviously doing a really good job with their offense. Guys that jump out to us, the running back is a really good player, Mohammed Ibrahim. It's his 6th year there. He's from Baltimore, Good Counsel High School, and has had as productive a college career as there is. They got a massive tight end, number 88, in Span Ford. Obviously, their quarterback is also another 6-year guy, and him and Kirk have worked extremely well together. And then their center is on every award watch list there is, and he's another 6-year guy as well. Defensive coordinator, also a Pennsylvania guy, Joe Rossi. I know Joe, got a ton of respect for what he does. He's from Pittsburgh and has done a really good job in taking over the defense there and improving it year by year. The guys that jump out to you is their middle linebacker, number 55, Suri Marine. If I'm saying that right, I hope I am. If not, I apologize. Free safety, number 27, Newbin. Cornerback, number 5, Wally, and the defensive end, number 8, Rush. All those guys are playing really good football for them right now. And then on special teams, Rob Wenger. Rob's been with them for 6 years. And their kicker, number 95, Trickett, and their punt return guy is an undersized guy, but has had some explosive plays, number 81, Redding. So tremendous challenge. Looking forward to getting out there in Beaver Stadium, finding a way to be 1-0 this week, and being able to come in this press conference next week and have some good stuff to talk about.
We'll start with Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagle in a new room, apparently, and then we'll go to Frank Bodani.
Rich?
How are you?
There you are. I appreciate the change up.
Thank you. James, can you shed light on Sean Clifford's availability for Saturday? And if he can play, you still plan on playing Drew?
Yeah, so as you guys know, unless it's like a season-ending injury, I typically don't announce that. Also, it's Tuesday. We haven't even practiced yet, so it's hard for me to give you guys an answer that helps you do your job at this stage. But yeah, nothing has changed with the plan or the model at this stage.
Frank Bodani, New York Daily Record, then Donnie Collins.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Your tight ends, do you think you've gotten enough from that group this year? How important is that group, especially the last couple of games? I know Theo's healthy again, but I think he only has a couple of catches the entire season. Yeah, well, to your point, just like you just said, he missed a couple games too. So,
that plays a part in it. But yeah, I think when we have played well, the tight ends have had a big role in what we were doing offensively. And when we struggled, they haven't. So I think your point is a good one. That's a room that we got a lot of confidence in, and has done some really good things for us. And we need to get them involved and keep them involved in both the pass and run.
Johnny Collins, Scranton Times Tribune, then Mark Wilkenrich.
Hey, James.
How we doing?
Doing well. When you went back and watched the film, what did you see with the run defense that went wrong against Michigan? And when you look at Minnesota on film, another team that likes to run the ball, how similar is what they do to what Michigan does in that aspect?
Yeah, I think there's similarities, and I think we also know this is a copycat business, right? So people are going to watch the film and take some ideas. So Minnesota wants to run the ball. They want to constrict kind of the life out of the game in terms of time and possession, all those types of things. So yeah, we're gonna have to be ready to defend the run and the play action passes that come off of it for them. And they got a really, really productive back that they do a great job within their system. So that'll be a challenge. There's no doubt about it. We're going to need to be ready. The corrections that we made on Sunday from the previous game, as well as, getting prepared for what Minnesota is going to try to do. Obviously, is going to be a big storyline in this game.
Mark Wilkenrich, all Penn State, then Corey Geiger.
Hi, James.
Hey, Mark.
How would you define Penn State's offensive identity this season, and have you achieved it yet?
Yeah, I think there's been times where I think, it's been pretty obvious what our identity is, which is run and play action pass and, be efficient in the passing game. We really haven't been explosive in the passing game this year like we had, last year and previous years. But I think when we've been at our best, been able to run and pass the ball and play action pass and spread the ball around. That's I think when we're going to be at our best. Obviously, when we can sprinkle in some explosive passes like we did on Saturday, those things would be helpful. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's when we're able to run and throw the ball consistently and keep people on their toes, not being able to predict what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
Corey Geiger, DK Pittsburgh Sports, then John McGonigal.
James, probably football in general. Everybody likes to talk about the backup quarterback. That's just a generality thing. There are a lot of people right now that would want to see Drew, both media, fans, everybody. What would you say to those people that are calling for maybe a possible change at this point? Yeah,
well, again, I don't agree with this statement, everybody. But I guess there's a lot of different things that I would say is, I think number one, that's the wrong message. That's the wrong signal. And Sean has earned the right to be on the field. That doesn't mean that Drew hasn't done some good things, and we'd love to get him an opportunity and continue to grow him and to continue to develop him for his future. No doubt about it. It's just interesting. And we've kind of talked about the whole dynamics of college football and how it's changed and specifically at Penn State. But I got a text from Mike Yurcich on Sunday when I was breaking down the film. And in 2016, we lost to Michigan and played Minnesota the following week and found a way to get that win. And the rest of the season went pretty well. So, I think there are tons of examples, not only at Penn State, but across the country, where you do everything you possibly can to win the next week. And I think some of those approaches aren't necessarily about winning this week, in my opinion.
John McGonigal, Penn Live, and then Sam Cohen.
Yeah, James, look, how nice is it to have someone like Olu on the left side, the way that he's developed and grown into his own, and on the right side, between Bryce and Kaytron, is that a rotation that you're comfortable with going forward through these weeks, or do you want one of those guys to step up and take that job?
Yeah, obviously you'd always love to be in a position across the board where you got one guy that's really playing, at an extremely high level. But I think I've told you guys before, we got a ton of respect for Bryce Effner and how he's played. I think he brings a ton of value, not only at tackle and guard, and we'll continue to play him in both of those roles. But, again, back to, when you talk about protecting the quarterback, I do think that's an area overall that we've been better. I also think it's how we're calling the game and how we're managing the game that's helped with that. But yeah, obviously Olu is playing really well at left tackle. We're not really rotating there. So whether, that happens at other positions, obviously that's a positive. But there's still some guys, that I feel like on the offensive line as well as at other positions that deserve the right to get on the field based on how they have trained and practiced and prepared. And Bryce Effner, I think, is a really good example of that. We want to make sure Bryce is getting on the field at tackle and at guard, or when we go with an extra offensive lineman, which we've also done at times this year as well. And you look at his rep counts; they're very similar, to some of the other guys that he's playing with.
Sam Cohen, Philadelphia Inquirer, and then we'll come to the room.
Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, Sam. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I want to ask about Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen. How would you evaluate where they are at this point in the season, and how would you compare that to where you thought they might be at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're talking about. You're talking about before the season started. You're talking about the beginning of the season. I think they're ahead. They've played a ton of football for us. They've learned a lot through both, good experiences and challenging experiences and adversity. I think they've learned how physical and how challenging our conference is, specifically our side of the conference. So yeah, for this week, that those experiences are valuable for them. And, I'm a huge believer in the experience that they've gained on the field, from a physical perspective, from a mental perspective, that they're growing every single day. And they've been very supportive of each other, as well as, Kevon's been a great mentor too. So, there's a lot of positives there. Obviously, we need to create some more big plays and get more explosive. With those running backs, we have the ability to do that. We've done it at times this year. We need to be more consistent.
We'll open up questions here in the room. We'll start with Mark.
James, I wanted to follow up on your comments after the game where you mentioned the defensive tackles, that you need to get bigger. And I think what you were getting at is that you have to recruit better there. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I wonder if you could expand on that and what were the issues you were seeing that made you say that? Thanks.
Yeah, no, I would not describe it the way you described it, but I think you guys know typically when I talk about these things, it's all of it. It's development, it's weight room, it's nutrition, it's recruiting, it's scheme, it's all of it. But what I was talking about is just size is a tool and size is a weapon. No different than speed and quickness and power and strength and agility and all those types of things. And there's just that fine line of that sweet spot that you have to find in terms of the size that you can put on that's good weight of lean muscle mass, that they're as big and strong and as athletic as they possibly can be, not putting on weight for weight's sake. So it's all of that. It's not the specific point that you made. It's all of those things. And I know when we're breaking film down on offense and studying people, and they got 300 pound or a 300 pound, a 330 pound defensive, tackle and a war daddy in there, and they're between 255 and 265 or 70 at defensive end. That's a problem. I think there's some defenses that we have played or that we have studied, that do that. And don't get me wrong, I really like our D-line room, but I think there are some guys that I think could help us and help them if they gained a few pounds. I think size is a weapon, and I'd like to be bigger, really across both fronts.
Tyler.
Hi, James.
Hey, Tyler.
This will be Mike Yurcich's 20th game working with you as your offensive coordinator. Curious, up to this point, how would you evaluate his ability to adjust the game plan based on your personnel strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, I think the change in use of our tight ends and formations and running the ball and things like that, I think is a change. And I think is an adjustment that puts us in the best position to play to our strengths. Obviously, we got to go out and execute consistently across the board. But I think there's been a pretty dramatic change if you look at Mike and who he's been over his career and who we are, right now based on our personnel. I think it's pretty significant.
Ben?
James, over here in the diagonal section. You've talked about you'd like this or like that in terms of size, in terms of approach, in terms of consistency in certain areas. What's the disconnect in making that happen? I realize that fixing problems isn't a finger snap, but you go, I'd like bigger defensive linemen. That seems in the hierarchy of things an easier one to sort of navigate around when you have those sorts of issues that seem a little not straightforward, but maybe less complex than other things. What keeps that from happening over the course of time?
Yeah, I think that's more than a fair question, but I don't really feel like right now is the appropriate time to get into. I pretty much have answered your question in the past. We've talked about these things in the past, and I'm happy to talk about them in the off season. But right now, literally, we're focused on beating Minnesota and what we can do in the short term. And yeah, that's not one of those things that's a short-term fix. Obviously, we can put on a couple pounds, but that's not a short-term fix for us right now. So I'm happy to kind of get into those things after the season. Although I've answered some of these questions in the past. But we're focused on Minnesota and getting better and putting our guys in the best position to be successful. Making sure that we're using the right techniques and fundamentals, to give us a chance to get a win this week and build off of it.
Neil?
James, early in the game, looked like there was nobody over, say, the right guard. Sean was under center. Can he call an audible there, or did he just not maybe see that? And also, I was curious what happened in the tunnel. If you could explain, was that after the game? If that was an issue with Michigan or something that you guys broached with the Big Ten.
Yep. So, with audibles, yeah, we have a system that allows us to audible at the line of scrimmage or looking to the sideline, like I think you guys see us do a lot. But that wasn't necessarily what we were looking for in that situation. Our biggest issue is we got beat on that play at one offensive line position, and we didn't come off on a double team on another. But yeah, we have the ability to check it. As you guys know, we do that fairly often. Again, I'd prefer to talk about these things in the off season, but the one tunnel, is a problem. It's a problem and has been. And to me, we need to put a policy in place, from a conference perspective, in my mind, that's going to stop this. We're not the first team to kind of get into a jawing match, in the tunnel. For me, I want to focus on getting my team into the locker room and not jawing back and forth. But want my team to get in the locker room and their team to get in the locker room. But there really should be a policy that the first team that goes in, there's a buffer. Because if not, this team starts talking to this team, they start jawing back and forth. And what's going to happen is something bad is going to happen before we put in a policy. And all there's got to be is a 2-minute or a minute buffer in between the two teams that this team's in before that team gets close. And however we want to do it, but we're not the first team that's had issues like that. To me, under the current structure, we won't be the last. And to me, there's a really easy solution, but we got to do it. But for me, I want to get our team in the locker room. I'm not. That's my concern.
Sauber?
James, you mentioned the lack of offensive explosion this year. Is that more about Sean not connecting with wide receivers on those opportunities, or calling for those opportunities less from an offensive coordinator perspective?
Yes. It's both. We gotta hit more of the ones we call. We could call a few more, but the challenge is, right, if you take a shot on first down and you hit it, then it's a great call. If you don't, now you're on second and long and you're increasing the chances of being on third and long. So that's always the fine balance between those things. And then the other thing is you don't want to always be taking shots on second and one when everybody in the stadium knows that's a shot down. So it's that fine line between those two things. And you're always most effective when you're being explosive and creating most of your first downs on first and then second down before you even get to third down.
Daniel?
James, Nick Tarburton talked today about the defense watching the film today as a unit and kind of, having to sit with that result. How have you seen the defense kind of respond to what happened Saturday, and how confident are you in them to avoid a similar result against the team that, like you said, is going to try to do something similar to what you guys just saw?
I think the meeting was good. I was in the meeting. I thought it was a really good meeting. And I think what has happened at times, and we've talked about this a little bit before, is our guys, their investment level is really high. And guys end up trying to make plays rather than specifically doing their job. And the reality is a lot of times when you do that, the plays just come to you organically. So it was a good meeting. We went through everything in detail, make sure everybody is on the same page. But it was needed. And, to your point, it's going to be important that we get those things corrected and get those things corrected quickly because we got a team that likes to do similar things.
Ryan, back left. Yep, it's on.
Oh, hey, James. So obviously the big week, it's the whiteout. And when you guys made the decision at the beginning of the season to make Minnesota the whiteout over Ohio State, what kind of factor did this game being a night game kind of play into that? And why do you think it's important to have that game at night?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. We did a survey with the fans and kind of figured out what they felt like was the most important thing to do. We had pretty strong inclination of what time certain games were going to be at. Obviously, your record obviously factors into a lot of those things and the teams that you're playing. But yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the season. That played a factor in the decision making. There's no doubt about it.
Audrey?
James, back here. You lost Landon Tengwall before the game even started. Do you anticipate him being able to go this week?
So it's Tuesday. We haven't practiced yet. It's not a season-ending injury, so I won't address it unless it's a season-ending injury. We have not practiced yet. And I'm not sure if he will be available or not. We're hopeful. He was in getting treatment on Sunday. He was in getting treatment on Monday. And we'll see kind of where he's at, end of the week. He's also a guy who's played a lot of football for us. So hopefully if we can get him some practice reps this week, then he's got a chance to go. But I don't have a whole lot of information on Tuesday when it comes to injuries, unless they're season-ending injuries.
And the follow-up to that, how do you think Hunter Nourzad has done, and how important has it been getting him back?
Yeah, it's been good. Hunter, we look at a lot like Effner. We view those guys as starters for us, and having him available and able to play was obviously really important after losing Landon, because he went from being in a rotation to starting and being the guy.
Last question to T. Frank.
James, how you doing?
Good. How are you, T. Frank?
Good. After a game like Saturday, I think there's a lot of external overreaction or intense reaction about you need to change X, need to change Y, need to change Z. How much do internally you feel that at times in a situation like that? And when do you know, okay, it is time to pivot either offensively or defensively if something hasn't been working for you?
Yeah. So again, I think a perfectly fair question. But I'll go back to kind of what I said with Mike Yurcich. We were 2-2, I think, lost to Michigan in a similar type game. and things went well. So I'm not going to look too far ahead. I'm not going to look too far behind. I think there was 6 undefeated teams that lost last week. So, you know, where I probably am concerned about it is, to your point, it's hard for me to insulate the players and the staff from it. And I think the way you described it, I think is accurate. So what we want to do is okay, let's watch the tape. Let's make the corrections. Let's learn from it, and then let's move forward and find a way to be 1-0 this week. Winning is hard to do at this level, and you know, that's our focus. But I think your point is a fair one. And what I'm trying to do is do everything I possibly can to control the Lash building and the messages and the vibe that's in that building, so that the Lash practice fields are the way they need to be. And then Beaver Stadium is the way it needs to be. So then we got a chance for 110,000 or 7,000 or whatever it is, fans coming out of that stadium Saturday night at some time around 11:50, 12 o'clock. Happy.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.